Okay guys, welcome to the pre-recorded demo for the first project for 2D. We are going to need the following supplies for our grayscale. We need the Bristol pad, the 11 by 14 pad. We're going to need a square brush, either a big one or a small one, whatever you feel comfortable using. You're going to need your black and white paint, a cup of water, and something to mix your paint on. A piece of paper or a plastic tray would do better actually for preserving your paint. Okay, to get started, the other thing we're going to need is some sort of ruler. I have a little short guy, but you can use a longer ruler, obviously. I also have a pencil. Okay, to get started, I'm going to take a piece of the paper out of our Bristol pad. Just like that. And I'm going to put it right down on the desk in front of me. And then what we're going to do is take our ruler and we're going to measure from the top 4 inches down. So we're gonna go 4 inches down from the top, and then we're gonna do 4 inches up from the bottom. Just like that. So now we should have 2 little dots on our piece of paper. 4 inches from the top, 4 inches from the bottom. And then you're gonna take your ruler and measure from the sides 2 inches in on one side, 2 inches in on the other side. And then from there, we're going to take a longer straight edge. I'm just going to, and this you would do with a ruler, a longer ruler. But for this demo purposes, I'm using a piece of paper and just draw a nice light line on the top. And then we're gonna do the same thing on the bottom here. Just like this. And then you should have 2 lines roughly looking like that. Okay, and then what we're gonna do is draw a line here from the top to the bottom. Nice light line. And then we're gonna draw one over here on the other side. A nice light line. Just like that. Not as messy as I just did it. So we're gonna fix that really quick. And again, you guys will be using a ruler, so this will be much easier for you to do. I'm just using a piece of paper, so it's a little messed up. Okay, so just like that. So you should have a nice, and this is why you draw nice light lines, just in case you make a mistake, because then you can just slightly erase and make it look pretty again. Okay, so you'll have a nice box like this when you're finished. And then we are going to take our ruler again, put it at the bottom edge, or excuse me, bottom line, and we are going to mark 1 inch intervals until we get 11 of them. Just at the 1 inch line until I get to the other side here. And now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we are gonna need one more, so you know what I'm gonna do is just erase this line. Draw in 1 inch was here, so I'm gonna put another inch right here. So I think when you're doing this, guys, just go in 1 inch from each side. This way you'll have a little extra room. I'm gonna see where we're at here. Put a little line here so that I know. Put a little line here so that I know. And then I'll bring this line over. This nice light line. Just like that. And then we'll match it up and we'll have 11. There we go. See, not too bad. So now we have 11 spaces at the bottom. Now we're gonna do the same thing at the top. Gonna make little 1 inch, little marks at 1 inch. There we go. Excuse me. Just like that. Line up. They should. Yep. And the line that at the top should line up with the one on the bottom. And you're just going to make lines all across. Just like that. Perfect, just like that. And then you can erase the little things that you did there at the top if you want to. Yeah, make it look a little neater. Use the extras here. And this is something you can do after too. You can just erase the little doodaddies here. Just like that. Erase the lines. And then you should have a box with 11 spaces, just like that. Now, what we're gonna do is take our blue tape and we're gonna tape the outer edges of our box so that we don't have to worry about going outside the edges when we're painting. And we're just gonna line up the blue tape just like this with the bottom edge of our thing. You can get rid of the extra. I just, well, by ripping it off, it'll let me. There, close enough. And then we'll take another piece. We may make it a little shorter, hopefully. This won't stick off the page. And we'll line up with the top here, just like that. And then we'll line up the sides. Being a pain, but like that. That seems a little wacky, but line up the sides. This tape is being temperamental, but something like that. I'll fix that in a minute. just fix this piece of tape. I don't like the way that is. If your tape is all being a little annoying, just fix it. The tape that I have, guys, is not the greatest, but it will have to do for this. It just doesn't want to lay straight. All right, that's better. And I'll just fill in that little gap we got going on there. Usually blue tape is fairly easy to work with, but this kind is a little bit cheap, so it's giving me a hard time. Anyway, so it's gonna look like that, all taped up and nice. Then it's time to start painting. So we're gonna take our black paint, which for the purpose of this video is brown, but we're gonna pretend it's black. And we're gonna put a little bit on our, whatever you're using to mix your paint with. Mine's a piece of paper, yours can be a plastic tray or paper plate, either way works. And we're gonna take our flat brush. I'm choosing to use a larger one, but you can use a smaller one. That's totally fine. Tip a little bit into your water and into your paint. And then you're gonna go right to the edges of your boxes and fill them in. Just like this. And now I have a little bit too much paint on my brush, so I'm gonna put, water on my brush. So I'm gonna get a little bit more paint just so that it's not so translucent when you're putting it down. You want a nice opaque color. And I'm just going right over. And this way you don't have to worry too much about going over the lines. Just make sure that your paint's not bleeding underneath the tape. So don't use too much water because then your paint will bleed underneath the tape. We don't want that. We want nice crisp lines. Now what we're gonna do is rotate the paper, just like this. And we're gonna take our brush and go right up against that line there. Get a nice straight line. Just like that. And you can, if you want, when you're doing this, each box, when you get to this step, you can put a piece of tape there if you'd like, just so you don't have to worry too much about it. But this is a good way to do it too, just using your brush to make the line. And there you have it, first box. Fill in any little spots that may be a little too transparent. And then you put the first box, just like that. Now, for the second box, we're going to mix a little bit of white into our black. We're going to take our white tube, put a little bit on the piece of paper, and then we're going to take a little bit of the white, you can see here, taking a tiny little bit of white just on the corner of my brush, just like that, you can see it. And I'm going to take a bunch of the brown, black that it's supposed to be, and mix the white right into the brown. Just tiny, tiny, tiny little bits. It's always easier to do tiny bits. It's always better. You can make it darker more easily than you can make it lighter. So we want to make sure that we're getting a color that's just slightly lighter than what we got going on over here. Slightly lighter. Just a little bit of white. So once you have your color that you think is slightly lighter, which you can kind of tell here, it's slightly lighter than this one. you're gonna brush it on. And what I like to do is just brush on right here up to the thing and just let that part dry a tiny, tiny, tiny bit so you can really see what the color looks like when it dries. Because it will get a little bit darker when it dries. So we want to make sure that we're pretty close to just one value over from black, or in this case brown, because I'm using brown. So I'll let that dry for a slight second, but I can already see that it's gonna be pretty close, you can tell. It's gonna be pretty close. So I think safe to say I can fill the rest of this in. So, I'm gonna go ahead and fill this box in. I got a little hair in there. Get that out. And you can just take your nail if you get a hair, or little, sometimes you can get it off with your brush, but sometimes you can't. Just kind of scoot it over to the edge here, so you don't want the hair in there. Okay, get that out of there, cover it up. Maybe a little bit of water, just to get this paint moving again. There we go. Right up against there, a nice clean line. Turn it, do the same thing over here. And then again, we are going to make this all the way through. Just like that. A nice square. All right. And then basically what we're gonna do is just keep going until we get to white. Alrighty. So I'm gonna pause for a second and then I'll come back when I've finished.